Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is Dynamics 365 Human Resources Infrastructure Merge. My name is David, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the session and at a dedicated Q&A at the end. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Umar Sardar, Senior Solution Architect. Umar, over to you.
Thank you, David, and thanks everyone for joining this Tech Talk session. I also have one of my colleagues from Fast Track, Adeel, who is a Senior Solution Architect from Fast Track team. I have PM from HR team as well, Tulsi. She's looking for this infrastructure merge capability, and I also have engineering colleagues, engineering team colleagues as well, Travis and Colin. Thank you guys for joining this session. Now in the agenda, we will discuss about what is HR migration, what are the benefits you will be getting it. In order to perform migration, what are the prereqs and expected outcome? How to run migration tooling. And one migration process completed, what will be your post-migration steps? And finally, Q&A session. Quick background about what is HR migration. Hopefully, most of you are already aware that Microsoft has announced standalone human resources application merge into finance and operations application. When we talk about benefits, one of the core objectives is to have clarity on human resources functionalities with Dynamics 365. Like human resource as a module is available in finance and operations app and also available as a standalone application. Another benefit with infrastructure merge is extensibility improvement. In standalone HR app, you cannot create extensions just like you do in F&O applications. Only options for customizations are from personalizations, custom fields, and extension through Dataverse like Power Apps, Power Automate, and so on. With infrastructure merge, F&O extensibility capabilities will be available for human resources as well. We also want to enhance journal capabilities. There are features available in finance and operations and not available in standalone human resources platform and infrastructure. Quick example are the requirement of Power BI reports in HR. In finance and operations, we can add Power BI reports, but we cannot do it in standalone human resources app. Another example is to utilize Azure Data Lake Export feature for advanced analytical requirements. And we also want to make sure that ongoing innovations happening in platform become available for human resources as well. Now let's talk about migration for implementation with standalone human resources implementation versus implementation having both finance and operations with human resources application as well. There is one thing which we wanted to clear is that the migration is your lift and shift migration from your human resources standalone application to finance and operations infrastructure. And the merge is when you are done with your lift and shift migrations, meaning from standalone applications to finance and operation infrastructure, then you merge your finance and operations newly merged environment to your existing finance and operation environment if you have that case. In both cases, one of the common process will be lift and shift existing standalone human resources application infrastructure to finance and operations. By executing this process, you will create a new LCS project, which I will show you in a demo momentarily. This will be mostly automated, where your database, blob storage, and other infrastructure stuff will move to new infrastructure from backend processes. This is mandatory step for customers when they are doing migration. Now, in second scenarios where customers have finance and operations implementation as well, just like I mentioned before, once lift and shift process is completed for standalone HR app, customer can merge human resources and finance and operations environments. Important thing to highlight here is that we do not require this step, and it depends on individual implementation strategy. For example, we have seen scenarios where customers want to separate human resources and operations applications in separate LCS projects due to security reasons. If customers decide to go with merge approach, that process would be mostly manual, where they need to import data from human resources environments to finance and operations environments. They can use data management feature for import by using data entities. As of now, not all entities are available against human resources data sets, so it is recommended to review entities availability at time when your analysis is being done for merge. So from high level, when we talk about transition timeline, all human resources features are now available in finance and operations. You can review the release notes for further details. After running private preview with few customers, we have now announced public preview for human resources migration. GA will be announced soon, and it depends on the feedback during public preview, but the expected timeline is 1 month from the announcement of public preview. One important point to mention is that there will be a hard stop timeline where standalone human resources apps will not be available. This timeline is not decided yet, but it will be around 12 months after GA. So for merge timeline, the merge process, which is your second steps where you merge your migrated infrastructure, human resources environment to the existing finance and operation environment. We are still in process for finalizing tool and processes for merge. From recommendation perspective, please do not merge directly from your standalone human resources application to your existing finance and operations apps, because most of the heavy lifting will be done through the tooling process. So everything will be moved by the tools and you don't need to do it manually. Merge processes should be performed from migrated HR environments to your existing F&O environments. Based on the availability of migration tooling, we are recommending that you should not be waiting for all the tools and entities to become available. Our recommendation is to start working on the analysis and design strategies for your migration of the merging. Now, before you execute migration process, there are a few prereqs which you need to perform and understand. You might have already multiple LCS projects for your existing implementation. With this migration, a new LCS project will be created. Migration tooling will do everything for you in background. You don't need to merge database or environments. Downtime will be minimal during this migration process. It would be around 3 to 4 hours for tooling to complete the migration in the background. Most importantly, you need to analyze and prepare for integration migration, because as after the migration is done, you will have the new URL and the new LCS project in F&O infrastructure. Now let's talk about prereqs for executing migration processes and tooling. You need system administrator account for LCS and Azure DevOps. Ideally speaking, it should be the same user which you are using in your standalone human resources application administrative purposes. Or if due to any reason you cannot use that one, the new one should have administrative privileges for creating LCS project and managing DevOps. You must migrate Sandbox before production. And before you execute migration process in Sandbox, our recommendation is to first refresh your existing standalone human resources environment for production, so you can have updated data and configuration in your Sandbox, and then you execute the Sandbox migration. You should copy your Dataverse environment before executing migration for Sandbox. LCS project onboarding is required steps in LCS, and then migration options gets enabled. If required, you can keep using your existing standalone human resources sandbox after migration. But once the production migration is done, you cannot access your standalone human resources production and sandbox environment. So the important thing for analysis part is when you're preparing for migration, you need to document a list of all of your integrations. You need to document a list of all the entities you are using in Dataverse. Document a list of all your business processes and test cases if you don't already have this from your original deployment. Document a list of your customization to HR and the Dataverse. Now let's review how to perform HR migration. As we discussed, it is recommended to copy your Dataverse environment associated with your standalone human resources sandbox environment. So why we need to do copy? It is because you cannot associate your existing standalone human resources sandbox and migrated human resources environment to a single Dataverse environment. In production, you don't need to do the copy. It will be associated to the same Dataverse environment. I have created a blank Dataverse environment before this demo, and we will be using that environment during copy operation. So we need to go to the Power Platform Admin Center, and we need to go to the environments, Dataverse environment, which is associated with our sandbox environment. And over here, we have an option to do the copy. We need to click on copy, select everything, and then we need to select the environments where we need to do the copy. Click on copy. And after the confirmation, the copy process will initiate in the background. It will take some time to complete it. For the sake of this demo, I will skip the waiting part and will go to the time when it is completed. As you can see, it is now completed, and we can also review the history as well from the logs. In my scenario, it took 21 minutes, but it depends on the database volume and customization in your Dataverse environment. Now, in next step, we will see how to perform HR migration. So once you have enabled your public preview feature in your tenant, you need to go to the LCS, click create a Dynamics 365 implementation project. You need to provide the project name and description, and there is a project custom type dropdown, and you need to select the human resources migration data type from this dropdown. After clicking on I agree, click on create. And now your LCS project for your human resources data migration purposes is going to be create. And you will see the environments based on your licenses. But you can notice that the migrate HR button and configure button is disabled. So for that, you have to first complete your project onboarding in LCS. And in project onboarding, you need to fill in the project information, the name, the description. And then there is a drop down regarding your partner information. If a partner is engaged, and you need to provide the partner ID. And then we need to select the region information. In our case, the legacy system would be others, the data center. And at the bottom, we need to select the licenses information. Once we are done with entering the licensing information, we can click on next, go to the next step. And this project scope, we need to select the Dynamics 365 products which we are using. If you're using Commerce, WMS, project operations. In my case, I'm selecting human resources. And under Power Platform section, I'll be selecting Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Apps. I'll also be going to select Integrate with Finance and Operations option as yes. And then I'll click on Next. Now on this screen, I need to define my teams. And for the sake of completing this onboarding, I need to create 2 users who are primary contact for fast track communication. And of course, you can create more team members as well as per your requirement. But 2 users who are primary contact for fast track are required for this project onboarding. I've created first user and I'm going to create the second one. I'm going to select the role and checking this primary contact for fast track as yes. And once I am done, I'll click on next. And on this screen, I need to define my milestone dates. These dates are important because based on these dates, you'll get the Go Live Readiness notification in your inbox. Once I have entered the dates, I can select the next button. And this step, I have skipped it for the privacy reason. You need to connect your DevOps, your existing DevOps, or you can also create new project, or you can use your existing project, DevOps project as well. Rest of the information I have kept it default. And I'll click on next. This screen is for fast track communication documentation, and this is standard documentation and best practices. And in the last screen, I'll be clicking on complete onboarding. And once I click on yes, the onboarding for this LCS project, which I have created for migration, is now completed. So now you can see after the loading process is completed, the migrate HR button and the configure button is now enabled. I'll click on migrate HR button. And in this dialog, I will be selecting my standalone human resources LCS project. And once I select the project, I'll be selecting the environment. And I also click on map to Power Platform and map to the ones which I have just copied in my previous demo. Click on next. And then in the next screen, I need to provide the information for environment name, environment notifications, environment administrator information, and then finally doing the sign off. Once the sign off is done and I click on deploy, now in the background, the data migration tooling will execute and you will see the statuses in LCS as it passed. So ideally, speaking in, it will take around 3 to 4 hours for completing it. I'll skip the waiting time and I'll go to the timelines when it is completed. So once it is completed, it will be just like any other your F&O environment, and I'll go to the Power Platform Admin Center and go to the Dataverse environment and see the association is happened over there as well. Now in the LCS, I can go to the details of this environment. Just like I mentioned, it is your F&O environment, and you can see all the details and all the administrative tasks you can perform over here as well. Now, as the environment is migrated, let's see the migrated environment. So your user is already migrated and active, so you don't need to reactivate it or create new users. You can use the same user. And for the sake of this demo, I'll be verifying my workers information, which this information is migrated from my standalone human resources environment. And of course, just like we discussed, the detailed testing strategy is required to verify all of your business processes and test cases. Now, there is a scenario when your migration process can be failed. So in this case, you will receive a message just like that, and you will get a quit. So the process is you will be sharing this information in a support ticket, and support engineering team will take that information and will do the further communication if you need to redeploy that environment or not. Now, once you have completed your migration, there are post-migration steps you need to perform. So what happens next? Uh, just like I mentioned, the process takes around 3 to 4 hours. Once it is completed, you can log into your environment and start testing and validating. Your environment has new URL. You need to manually repoint your integrations, and you need to manually configure dual write maps if required. You can always repeat your migration if required, and for that, you first need to delete migrated environment from FNO LCS project and then rerun the migration process. You can also configure FNO environment without migration by clicking on the configure button, and you can maybe refreshing the database from another sandbox environments where you have already performed migration. So test your business, each business processes just as you would do for any other software update. Test integrations to validate connections and the data being moved. Test your reporting and analytics. And finally, test your cutover processes. There are a few considerations we want to highlight here. For Dataverse and Power Platform, there is no change in schema. Serious syncing is deprecated and it is replaced with dual write maps. For BYOD, no change in schema as well. It is recommended to refresh your entity list and perform a sync once an environment is available after migration. If you are using OData for your integration scenarios, the OData endpoint URL would be changed. You need to repoint your integration and perform the cutover rehearsals. For data integrator, no change for production, but for sandbox, you need to make new connection. If you have multiple FNO environments, then you need data integrator to perform syncing between those. It will be applicable for merge scenarios, which we discussed in the earlier slide. If you need dual writes, evaluate first which entities you need to enable before syncing. Do not enable dual writes maps for all entities. You need to install dual writes package for human resources from Power Platform Admin Center. And most importantly, test your dual writes syncing once you are done with dual write mapping. Now let's review for setting up dual writes package for Dynamics 365 human resources. So you need to go to the your LCS environment, going into the details where you can see all the details and can do the administrative tasks just like we discussed. And then over here, you can see the setup dual write application button. Click on that, click on I agree, and then click on configure. So it will trigger the dual write package installation in the background, and your LCS status will change. And once it is done, and of course it will take some time, I'll skip the waiting time. It will change back to the deployed status. Now it is deployed. The next step which you need to do is to click on link to Power Platform environment button, and it will also take a few minutes. Once this process is complete, you will see the success linking message over here. Now it is completed. Now let's go to the Power Platform Admin Center, and where we will go to the Dynamics 365 apps and search for human resources dual write package. And we will click on Install button. We'll select the Dataverse environment. Click on Agree to the terms and services and click on Install. The installation process is now initiated. And once the installation is done, you can go to your Dataverse environment, go to the Dynamics 365 apps, and you can see the package in the installed status. Now, as the DualWrite package is installed, let's go back to the finance and operation application, where we will go to the DualWrite setup screen, and we will apply the solution over there. So let's go to the data management workspace. And once it is loaded, we'll go to the DualWrite screen. Click on DualWrite tile. And you can see there is no entities are currently available over here, so we need to apply the solution. And we will select the Dynamics 365 Human Resources solution and the core entity maps as well. We click on Apply. So once it is applied, it will take some time, but once it is applied, you will start seeing the entities coming up over here. And just like we discussed, you can then need to enable the mapping for the entities which you needed. So you can see now the human resources entities are coming up here. Now, once you have done sandbox migration and completed your testing, it is a time to discuss migration for production environment. You will get go live readiness email 30 to 60 days before your go live date, which you have set in the LCS. You must migrate one sandbox before you can migrate the production. And you must complete the go live readiness assessment and subscription estimator in LCS before the production migration button is enabled. So you have to complete your sandbox migration. You need to do the testing, and you need to submit the go live readiness assessment and sending the subscription estimator, and then the production enablement button will be there. So what will happen once after the production migration? So existing Dataverse remains linked to your new production environment. So this is the difference between sandbox migration and production environment. Old production environment and LCS are disabled and cannot be accessed anymore, just like I mentioned earlier. You must relink your integrations and perform any other cutover steps as you did in your sandbox. Documentation is available explaining migration processes, FAQs, and best practices. And as I mentioned earlier, we are currently in public preview and will go to the GA based on the feedback within a 1 month approximately timeframe from the public preview date. We have one dedicated Yammer group for human resources migration, where we are onboarding customers and partners to share their feedback for migration. Link will be shared along with this tag. Okay, so now I'll stop here for Q&A. Adeel, do you want to highlight a few of the questions?
Sure, Umar.
Sure, thank you.
Sorry. We had a question or two in the chat. We have answered those. So I'm going to pick up some of the questions that we had been getting from the other session, as well as from previous customers. And yeah, the very common question that we get is, will the custom fields and the data they contain, will they be brought forward automatically during the merge?
Sure. Yeah, so all the data, everything, your personalization, we also receive questions regarding batch jobs, everything, your security roles, it will move to your newly migrated environments because we are moving your database during the migration process. So yeah, that is one thing. This deck will be available as well after this presentation. So that question was also asked us.
Yep. And what about the HR teams? And maybe I'll answer that as well. So there is with the standalone HR app, there is a Teams app for leave and absence. And we are not bringing that forward. However, for the leave and absence, the new Power App based mobile app is ongoing, and soon we will be launching the initial MVP version of it. So hang in there for that version, and because it's going to be a Power App, you would be able to use it as standalone or embedded in your teams.
Yeah, thank you, Adeel. And there is one question being asked, and I think it was also a frequent question. So the question was, do they have to do the lift and shift? And if they are doing merge, couldn't they just export the data from their standalone human resources app right into the existing finance and operation environment? Colin, I will route it to you for the answer, if you can please.
Yep. Sorry, I was going through and looking at questions here. So the question was going through and doing a lift and shift versus a merge. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly. Why cannot we simply export the information out of our standalone human resources environment and directly import it to our existing finance and operation environment?
Yep. So the guidance there is to go through and do the migration, then the merge. In many customers' environments, we have a timeline that we have to go through and do for a shutdown of the HR standalone service. By going through and doing the migration, then the merge, the customers have the ability to go through and be on their own timeline in which they can go through and consolidate the two environments into a single environment on their side. With that also being said, is all of the new enhancements are coming on the finance and operations platform over the HR side. So while a customer could, in theory, go through and do a merge from HR directly, there's going to be some functionality gaps between the HR standalone and the migrated environment from which HR goes into on that side. So between those two things, the functionality gap for the merge scenario and the customers being able to do so on their own timeline, that is why we're providing the guidance to go through do the migration and then the merge.
Thank you, Colin. It was really helpful for the detailed answer. The next question is, can new customization be applied to the migrated environment via the package same as an FNO? And the answer is yes, because at the end, you will be getting the finance and operation environments, all the capabilities which you get in finance and operations, the one version capability, it is going to be applied to your migrated environment as well.
There is a question, Umar, a new one that just came up. What will happen with the documents which we store within Dynamics 365 HR, active document tables, worker table? Will those be copied to the new FNO environment?
Yeah, so if the documents, the question is related to the attachments, if I understood it correctly, so the attachments which are stored in the Azure Blob storage is also being migrated to your new FNO infrastructure environment as well.
Right, and if they are URLs.
Adeel, I'm sorry.
Yes. Go ahead.
On the attachment side of things, if you're going to go through and do a environment merge, then that would be an important thing for customers to get across. In the merge scenario, the team is working on expanding out the attachment entity footprint, which will allow for an export and import of attachments between a migrated HR environment and the environment they wish to merge into. So both in the migration and the merge scenario, the majority of the attachments should be available for both scenarios.
Great, that's good. There is a question on license, which I can take quickly, is will the new customers still only be required to buy 5 HR licenses? So yes, this whole migration and the lift and shift is not impacting the licenses, and the HR licenses, whatever is the contract you have or the existing license guide will remains the same. remains the same. Then we have, are all common data model CDM currently covered by HR integration also mapped in dual write?
So the dual write stuff is, for example, now you have a dual write and you have the entities and maps available for human resources perspective. And help me, Travis and Colin, if you need to add something on that. So you need to enable those maps by installing the dual write package, which I just showed you, and then test your syncing between your FNO, the human resources new infrastructure, and Dataverse.
Thank you, Umar. Let's quickly go through some of the other questions as well. So I guess we want to make sure that the support process is the same. So after looking into or joining this preview, if you are going through the migration process, even if it's in the preview program, you would be able to follow the same support process and log the ticket in the LCS if you face any issues during your migration. Just make sure to copy the error that you're getting into the ticket and provide it to the support team.
Yeah, and there is one series of questions as well regarding the integrations where the customers, if they are using the integrations with external system, just like I mentioned in my presentation, the URL is now new. So you need to now change the URL, but of course the permission and the rest of the stuff will remain same if it is same in your organization, but you need to change the endpoints and re-verify your integrations. For example, if you are using logic apps, you need to go to the logic apps and change the URL of and put it the new environment URL over there.
One more question on will any new features for HR be available in all the FNO environments or just the new migrated one? So the HR functionalities are available in all the FNO environments and including the ones you are migrating, but even the ones that you have currently in FNO, you should be able to enable the new HR capabilities. One thing which is also true that the standalone app, though, the HR standalone app, we have stopped providing any new functionality updates. We are still maintaining them, providing the fixes. However, all the new functionalities since last couple of months, I would say since 10.0.28 or 27, where we introduced the full HR solution in FNO. Since then, we have only been providing updates to the FNO app, which obviously is another big reason for you to migrate to the new infrastructure.
Okay, the next question is, how do we move data between migrated HR and finance? So in this scenarios, you can use data integrator to sync data between that. This is one of the options by using the Microsoft tooling. Another option is, which I have seen also, as that some of the customers using different approaches. Some were using BYOD, and then from there they have written some of the logic apps to move the data between these two environments. But from the Microsoft tooling perspective, you can use data integrator to move data between migrated HR and your existing finance and operation environment. Okay, so let's review if there are any other questions which we need to answer. Okay, now the question is, we have two HR sandbox environments on legacy infrastructure stored in two different LCS projects. Is it possible to migrate both sandbox environment to the same LCS FNO implementation project? So yeah, I'll route it to Travis, Colin, to you. Yeah.
Yeah, for that one, if you do have your standalone HR environments in separate LCS projects, you are able to consolidate them down into a single implementation project. That implementation project that you create will have as many sandbox slots as you have licenses for already. So you'll be able to migrate all of your sandboxes into that one project.
Thank you, Travis. Let's quickly check if there are any other questions left.
I think, Umar, we have covered most of the questions.
Excellent. Sure. And yeah, I think if we are done with the Q&A, David, over to you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Umar. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel, and we'd like your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and audience for joining us today.